Fear stops us from achieving our true greatness. Are you a professional woman who is feeling stuck, unmotivated, or burned out? Are you worried about your wellness? Are you letting fear stop you from crushing your goals? If you answered yes to any or all of these, then this is the podcast for you. Dr. Charmaine Gregory, night shift emergency physician, burnout thriver, and wellness champion, along with everyday heroes just like you, will explore how to face fear in our lives and emerge victoriously.
Hello, it's Dr. G, and welcome to episode 99. Wowzer, 99. I still have to pinch myself when I think about that because that is just absolutely amazing to me. That we have been together week after week for 99 consecutive episodes. Hats off to you for your ability to stick with me as I go through this journey of facing fear, for your ability to face your own fears and emerge victoriously with the Fearless Freedom Tribe. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. And so in that same vein, there is a great news associated with the fact that we are now on episode 99 because thanks to you, we have crushed the 17,000 downloads milestone. Yes, we have. And we are well on the way towards 18,000. And it would not be possible without your help. And so thank you for making this podcast a huge success. And of course, I am doing the happy dance, as you can probably hear in my voice. So thank you for subscribing to the podcast, listening to the podcast, sharing it with a friend or two, and leaving a 5-star rating. You are appreciated and you are a valued member of the Fearless Freedom Tribe. So I am super excited to be able to tell you that the podcast swag shop is getting closer and closer to being online and ready to go. So I thank you so much for all the suggestions that you have hit me up with in my DMs and my messages and my emails, just talking about what kinds of things we should have in the swag store. So we got blue blockers, potentially. We have maybe some jump drives. We have some earphones, masks, stickers, water bottles. So they're going to be some really cool items that we're going to use in the shop. And it will be a great way for you to express your appreciation, your love, you being part of this essential and crucial tribe where we face fear together and we emerge victoriously. So thank you for that. Now, in 2021, and I am aiming for first quarter 2021, we are also going to launch the Fearless Freedom Tribe application. So this is going to be an app that you can have on your phone or you can utilize on your desktop. And it is going to be the space where we commiserate and we help each other to face fear boldly with amazing tools. And it's going to be an exclusive group, mastermind, whatever you'd like to call it, but it will be a subscription. So it will be pay to play. And so we are going to have some incredible breakthroughs in this group this year coming up. And we're going to be like, oh my gosh, 2020, what? Because 2021 is going to bring the greatness. So look out for that. It's coming. Just want to give you a heads up so that you can start seeing all of the clues I'm going to be dropping about being a part of that subscription plan, program, group, mastermind, and the associated app that will come with it. So, I'm just so excited. I've been working on so many things behind the scenes and just having things come together and be able to serve you so that you can be amazing. And so in that same vein, let's talk about the podcasts that have come out of the podcasting launch course. Now, there's still a few that are kind of almost ready, but not quite there yet, that are going to be coming out as well. And as soon as those pop, I am going to be promoting them like crazy on here, just like I do with the others. And so these shows that are currently out, please go ahead and check them out and show them some love by subscribing, leaving a 5-star rating, sharing, and leaving a positive comment. So the first one is Pivot and Bloom with Dr. Mila. Pivot and Bloom is an amazing podcast where Dr. Mila really brings the fire when she talks about change, flourish, repeat. Change, flourish, repeat. She does this in high fashion, and you are missing out if you don't have her show in your queue and you're not listening to her. The next one is The Drama-Free Workplace with Patty Perez. And now Patty brings fire. When we talk about fire, we're talking about the heat. She brings it because she has a uncanny, masterful way in which she helps us to navigate those difficult situations when we are communicating at work, and can sometimes cause drama. So she allows us to be able to have a drama-free existence, not only in the workplace, but also in our lives. So check her show out. Dr. Babalola has an amazing show called Living at Your Finest. And she dives into how you can incorporate and improve your health, how you can improve your personal development, how you can have a faith-based and spiritual-based overcoming. And she does all of this through her amazing podcast where she brings the fire. So add these 3 to your queue, get into their shows, and subscribe. Like I said, share it, leave a positive comment, leave a 5-star rating, and let's show them love so that they can continue to be amazing and impact as many lives as possible. Now, maybe you're like, wow, that's pretty cool. I am very inspired by the shows that are out there. I'm inspired by your show, Dr. G. Oh, thank you. You shouldn't have. Oh, no, yes, you should have. So basically, maybe that's you. And maybe you've been saying to yourself, you know what? I want to start a podcast. I want to share my expertise and my voice with my tribe. But I just don't know where to start. Maybe you're saying that. And so if you're interested in being a part of the podcasting launch course, then I have fantastic news. I'm still putting people on the wait list so that you can get the entry, but the course is not going to be a situation where you're going to have to wait the full 6 or 7 weeks. You literally can enter on a rolling basis. So I'm super excited about that. I hope you are too, because what this means is that we're going to be able to help more people. And that excites me, because the more of us that there are out there who are sharing our voice and our expertise and getting it amplified through podcasting, the better. So if you're interested in that, hit me up at bit.ly/P as in Paul, L as in Larry, C as in Charlie, waitlist, WAITLIST. So that's bit.ly PLC waitlist. So you may be saying, oh yeah, that's all good, Dr. G. That's if I have the time to do something like that. Maybe you just don't have the time. That's fair. Life's crazy. I get it. So if you're too busy to participate in a facilitated course, but you still want to get your show started, then guess what? The Podcast in a Box is for you. Basically, with the Podcast in a Box, what happens is you provide the audio for your first 5 episodes. You provide the creative expertise towards and input towards getting your logo and your show art all done. And you provide the bullet points that you want to be emphasized in your show notes. And guess what? We do all the work. We get all those 5 episodes ready to go, looking great, edited, produced, your show art, your show graphic, your show notes, everything all set for your amazing show's launch. So that's it. You pay us, we do the work, you give us the content, and we make it happen. We make the magic happen. So if you're interested in that, that is at bit.ly/D as in dog, F as in fish, Y as in yes, podcast. That's bit.ly DFY podcast. So get off the fear fence today. Your tribe is waiting, anticipating, waiting for you to share your voice with them. Okay? So, yay! I'm so excited. So those are all the announcements. I did want to say though that this is, I still, like I said, I'm still very, very much excited and almost like it's surreal that this is episode 99. So it is amazing. And then again, I just thank you so much for joining me in this journey. I remember when it started, almost 2 years ago, and I was so afraid to get going. And I said, you know what? If I'm afraid, somebody else out there is also afraid. And if I don't tell my story and get others to tell their stories, we're not going to make the impact that we need to make. And so we have made tremendous impact together over the last 2 years and over the last 99 episodes. And I thank you for that. I am appreciative of you. And I am so honored that you have chosen to be a part of the Fearless Freedom Tribe. So on this week's episode, we did a live show and it aired earlier in the week on LinkedIn, Facebook, and the YouTube channel. And it's still up on those spaces. So if you want to check out what we look like and all the antics, then feel free to go to those areas. And all of those channels essentially are going to be Charmaine Gregory, MD. Okay? So I look forward to seeing you there. Now, the guest on the show is none other than the awesome, the amazing Dr. Tracy Asamoah. And she shares some amazing things, and we get super deep really fast. So check this out. Hello, Fearless Freedom family. Welcome. It's Dr. G. And today, yes, we are going LIVE live. So thank you for popping on and joining us live. I appreciate you. Dr. Asamoah appreciates you. Oh, wait, who's Dr. Asamoah? Dr. Asamoah is our guest today. Guest. She's our guest today, and she is going to share her pearls with you. She's going to tell you all about all the awesomeness that she is up to, and she's also going to tell you all about herself. So, Dr. Asamoah, you take it away.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you for having me today. I'm so excited for our conversation today and to get a chance to connect with your audience and hopefully share some pearls and a little bit of my life experience. So I am a professional coach, and I really like to actually call myself an identity coach. That is a coach who works with women because that's my tribe, and I work with professional, busy moms who see a different vision for their lives, but aren't quite sure how to get there. And so my job is to partner with them and help them get to that next step. And really, I see my role is just really helping through transitions that they're going through, helping them navigate changes to really claim that vision for themselves, to really understand their purpose and to get there. My day job, what I actually trained in when I started my career, is as a child and adolescent psychiatrist. So I've spent a lot of my life listening and learning and understanding how people think and behave and how the brain works. And so I really see coaching as just a different way to do this.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And thank you, by the way, for being a child psychiatrist, because, man, we are in such desperate need of your expertise, because I can tell you that there have been, so mental health in general is a place where we have a huge need for expertise. And so, in the emergency department, we see quite a lot of mental health. And so, these are very vulnerable patients. Their disease is not external. It is not like they have a disease that you could see the physical manifestations of. They don't have anything that you could test the lab result and quantify. And so when they're in crisis, it's really, really, really difficult, because you want to help, you want to do things to help them, and you sometimes feel quite helpless. So I rely on our psychiatrists, and particularly for the most vulnerable populations, which are the children, when you specialize in that, oh my gosh, hats off to you, because there is so much of a need there. Yes, the need is huge. in that particular area, because we have so many young people who are hurting, who are
Yeah.
suffering, and
Mm-hmm.
they have no idea where to turn, and then they come and see us when things are essentially dire and at a critical point. And then we have to say to them, we have to look at them and we have to say, you know what, there aren't any rooms anywhere, there aren't any positions anywhere we
Yeah.
can send you to. And so they end up boarding in our emergency department
Yeah.
for days, which I think is such an awful thing. And so I really appreciate you and your colleagues for doing that work, because it's very
Yeah.
important work. And yes, I just want to say thank you.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you for all the kind words. And my husband is an ER doc, so I get your end of it too, and
Gotcha.
hear that he sees probably as many people struggling with mental illness and stress as I do. You see so much of that in the ER, and especially now. We're in
Oh
we're
yeah.
in tough times, and it's really stretching people. The beautiful thing about what I get to do working with families and patients is I often get to see people really at their kind of their darkest moments, and then becoming these people who are transformed, who understand themselves and have had an opportunity to work through whatever struggles they're working through to really get to the other side. And working with kids and adolescents is really cool because I get to see
Absolutely.
kids grow up. I get to see kids who maybe start in elementary school or middle school when they see me. And then I get to send them to college and say, wow, you're like starting your life with a lot more insight and a sense of who you are. Or maybe they're starting careers in areas where if I could have pictured what they might have done, I could have said, well, now that's kind of perfect for you. And so being in this career has really been a huge blessing to me because I've been able to see people really change and flourish and work through some really, really tough challenges. So I love that I've been able to do this.
That is so awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Because I think that, we think all the time about, the fact that mental health is an issue, and because it is kind of like an invisible disease,
Yeah.
but we don't actually think of, like, our colleagues that are making that impact. And so
Mm.
you're getting a bunch of comments here. So I see KK Moody, Dr. KK Moody's on, and
Yeah.
she's saying, yeah, COVID will have a second wave, and with mental health needs that are going to be astronomical. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the isolation is tremendous,
Oh, it's huge.
and that just plays a role hugely. And another thing too is, like, we're coming up on the holidays. So
Yeah.
I noticed that right around the holidays is when we have a huge spike in our mental health patients,
Mm-hmm.
because the same things, like, people either they are without family at that time,
Yeah.
or maybe they may have some issues with, like, connection with family. And so now this holiday is going to be even more tremendous, because now we're going to have a situation where you cannot connect with family
Yeah.
at all,
Yeah.
like, even
Yeah.
if you had a great relationship. So a lot of virtual meetings, I guess, or I don't know
Oh,
how
yeah.
Thanksgiving's gonna have to be pretty virtual, but it's huge. And so
Yeah.
we have to really we have to have an eye out for that population, and especially the children. So
Absolutely.
again, it's huge. And then KK also says thank you. She's an ER
Oh.
physician as
Oh,
well.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, she's actually she's a pretty amazing ER physician, by the way. So KK, shout out to you.
Yeah, and thank you guys for what you do because you really have to hold it down in the ER for helping those folks that we can't quite get to. You're right about, it's been really unique. I've seen a lot of people who, on the one hand, are really struggling being at home and not being able to connect with people, especially for kids and adolescents, because that's what being a teenager is about. It's about
Exactly.
getting out there and being with your people. And then on the other hand, it's been a real challenge for some of my folks who maybe don't feel quite comfortable in social situations. And this has been an opportunity for them to actually do what I don't want them to do, be at home and stay away from people more. And the
Mm.
stress of having to kind of go back out there and start school. So there's been challenges all around. And so, yeah, there's a lot that we have to think about coming up with the holidays and the stress for families and the additional stress that the pandemic is going to create. The one thing I would say, and this is where my mental health hat again, because I never take that off, is that for those of us who can see that and understand the stress, just keep your eyes open for the people who are struggling. I mean, really, we need to be reaching out to family and friends and colleagues who might not be able to navigate this as well. Or if we're the ones who need help, then look for that one person who we can reach out to, because it really is so important. The one thing that this pandemic has really taught me is that we need our people. We need to know who those supportive people are in our world. It doesn't have to be a huge group. It can be one person, and we need to be able to reach out and touch those people.
No, absolutely, absolutely. So that's great, a great point, because we have to start thinking outside the box. And KK just left a comment saying that we have to come up with new traditions too. And so as we're thinking about those people amongst us who are hurting and reaching out to them, perhaps we can come up with some, I don't know, like for example, at my job, basically what we're doing instead of having a Christmas party, because our Christmas party is normally ridiculous, like it's huge, just like, you know, thousands of people come there.
My
And
gosh,
of course we can't do that this year, right? And so maybe not thousands, over maybe like about 1,000.
Okay.
And so, you know, but still big, you get the idea. And so, you know, everybody looks forward to it. The nursing staff looks forward to it, you know, environmental services, everybody, the whole team looks forward to this party. And they talk about it. What am I going to wear? You know, all the things. And we have awards there. So, you know, like we acknowledge our colleagues there. It's a big deal. And so we're not having that this year. And I definitely appreciate that that is a missing. And I can tell, you know, because normally around this time, everybody's getting ready, like, oh, got to make my schedule so I'm not on when the party is. And so what was a really neat idea that came up out of this is that people are having ugly sweater parties instead. And so they're having like virtual ugly sweater parties with Zoom. And then they're having like, if you want to play, what is it? Is it euchre or something? I don't know. There's some game that if you want to play that game together, then you do breakout rooms and you play that game.
I love that.
So you know, it's like, you know, KK mentioned you want to have new traditions, but this might be the year when you just get creative, you start thinking outside the box about what you're going to do, because you don't want to be isolated. You don't want to be in that situation where you feel disconnected completely. So yeah, you just got to come up with some new things.
Absolutely. You know, it's interesting that you mentioned that what that makes me think about is one of the things I really coach around is understanding and knowing your values, right? And knowing yourself. And one way to think about new traditions is really understanding, what do you value about the holidays? Is it the time with family? Is it cooking meals and eating meals together? Because you can build new traditions just by understanding things you value. One thing my family loves to do is we love to cook. Every single one of us loves to cook. And you know, cooking virtually, everybody having the same ingredients and then getting on Zoom and creating a tradition around, we're all going to bake cakes together. We may not eat it together, but we're going to be on Zoom. We're going to cook it together. We're going to eat it together. And, you know, and if you value that, if you like having good meals, loving people through food, you know, being able to sit and just share meals together. It doesn't have to be in person. This isn't going to last forever, but it's certainly a new way to create traditions, especially if you have family members who live out of your area and you know that it just isn't feasible to see them. There's just all sorts of exciting things we can do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is for sure.
Yeah.
And then let me see. We have another comment coming through from Facebook. Dr. Moody says, how can we best help our patient families when they cannot say goodbye? How can we prevent chronic grief when there isn't closure for deaths?
Yeah.
That is a huge one. That's a huge one.
That's really tough, you know, because, and because, you know, I just actually wrote an article for, I write for GoodRx. I do a lot of medically related articles for them. And I just wrote one about grief and talking about how grief is showing up during the pandemic. And it's not just the grief of being able to, you know, work through the death of a loved one, but it's through loved ones who are just in the hospital and you know that there's a change in your relationship with them because you can't see them. It's a change in livelihood. It's a change in our freedom. It's the grief that we as caregivers and healthcare providers experience when we are losing control over our patient outcomes because we don't understand this pandemic quite well enough yet. You know, again, it's getting creative and it's knowing what you value about your relationship with those people. So it may be having the nursing staff help you set up FaceTimes. It may be finding ways to talk about memories with that loved one, or just gathering around with the people that you can be around to support each other. It's tough because there are situations where we just can't physically be with our loved ones. It isn't safe, and acknowledging that it's tough. I mean, I think that's the big part of it, is just saying, this is not ideal. There's nothing about this that feels good or right, and yet this is the way that we have to do it for now. And finding, again, those supportive people who can understand and support you. When I've seen it done in a way that feels as comforting as it can be, it's often been those folks on the medical staff, or even that one family member who's able to go into the room or go nearby, who can kind of represent and bring others closer. And setting up times and ways to do that, I think, has been really important. But I think the grief is, it's a real thing. The thing that's unique about grief right now is that often when we experience grief, it's around an event that has a limited time. Someone has passed, and now we have to deal with the loss of that person. But the grief right now doesn't quite feel like it has an end, because we don't know what's right. We don't know how this pandemic is going to look in a couple of weeks, in a couple of days. We don't quite know who else is going to be affected. We don't know how it's going to impact our ability to earn a living, to keep our jobs, to send our kids to school. There's grief in so many areas. And so, and we haven't experienced anything quite like this before. So I don't even think we all quite have the answers to it. I think a big part of it, though, is just having grace and some self-compassion, and acknowledging that it is hard and it's really tough, and that we need to look to those people around us for support, and just to know that we're not in it alone. I mean, maybe that's some of the only thing that I can do at times to console myself personally, is to realize we're not in this alone. We're all going through this together, and we're going to be so much better off if we can support each other through it.
Oh my goodness, yes. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's fascinating. It's such an interesting time. You know, I had the honor and the privilege of talking to some colleagues from my the college here in Michigan College of Emergency Physicians. And, I gave a talk about this same thing, like what's happening to us, like what's happening to us as the care team, what's happening to the patients, and what's happening to the families. And, it was interesting because I shared an anecdote, because it was, I had a situation where, I had a patient's family really thank me. And I was like, wow, not that I'm really not really used to getting thanked, by the way, just we're used to getting like,
I understand.
When someone thanks us, we're like, what's going on? What should I do? Oh, this is weird. It feels weird. And so she thanked me. And I was like, why is this lady thanking me when her family was here because they fell? And I'm like, But she was thanking me because she said, you know what? Had he not fallen, I would not have been able to see him. So this person was in a nursing home, and she was seeing her family member through the glass. Okay. And so for months, obviously. And so this was the first time that she was able to see him in live, living color, touch his hair, hold his hand, speak into his ear. That was like, whoa. I was so like shook when I experienced that. And it just made me, it just reminded me. So, we talked about, there is closure associated with if your loved one is in a situation where unfortunately they are in a crisis. And they end up seeing us in the emergency department. And as a result of whatever is going on in their body, despite our best efforts, they basically go to heaven, right? So they die. And so there are times when, and this is our practice normally under normal circumstances, is we would have the family come back during the resuscitation while we're doing our work. We would have the family come back, particularly if we know that the efforts are not going in the direction that we would like. And so we have them come back. We have them at the bedside. We have them speaking to the patient, because I firmly believe that when someone is about to pass over to the next life, it's paramount that they have someone next to them or with them that is loving to love a loved one that is going to be able to say, I love you, or you will be with us, or whatever those words of comfort, maybe. I feel like there is a lot of power to that for that transition to occur.
Yeah.
And so, we don't have that anymore. And it's particularly worse, impactful, particularly disturbing that we can't do it for the children. Because the pediatric resuscitations are like the worst for us and for the families and for everybody involved, right? Because obviously we never want to lose a child, but it's like compounded like 10x when the family is not able to be at the bedside while we are working on the child to try to save the child. So, I mean, there are so many ramifications of this that I did not even think about when it first started. I was so focused on like, oh my goodness, like, how do I do this safely? How do I not like bring this home to my family? How do I care for, how do I care for these individuals who we still have no idea what's happening with them?
Yeah.
And things are changing daily. Like, so that there was a stressor. There was like a kind of stress that is foreign to us. And so we as emergency physicians, we're used to stress. We thrive on stress. Like, we are used to having very little information and have a time crunch and have to make big decisions that are essentially life determining decisions with very little data. Like, that's what we do. And, we are not easily shaken. But I'll tell you that I was shaken at the beginning of this, and I'm still like cautiously optimistic at this point, because there is so much of an external stress that is not the kind of stress that we're used to, that's 100%. Weighing on our shoulders. And we try our best to not let it hinder our performance and hinder our ability to stay upbeat and positive with our patients, but it's hard, and that's just the truth. And so, I don't know. It's just a fascinating time. I think it's a time that we will learn. I mean, we'll look back on this time and it will be such a time of education, and it will be like an experience of probably decades. It will be something that we'll look back on and we'll be like, oh my gosh, we learned so much from this time period that is just exponential. So
I hope that it can come from within medicine to really understand something really important that you're talking about, is really understanding how we as physicians and other healthcare professionals can be able to care for ourselves and acknowledge things that are difficult and stressful. Because like you said, we're all trained in different capacities to deal with different types of stress. You in the ER, you're trained to deal with that person who's coming in, they're crashing, they're in crisis. You have to make quick decisions. You don't have a whole lot of time to respond to every emotion. You just have to get it done and get them taken care of. I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. I'm used to just sitting with extremely high levels of emotional discomfort and big, tough emotions, and just sitting in the room and holding that and holding someone through that and letting that wash over me and not have to react to that in that moment. And I think for all of us, we've realized that all of these skills and these different techniques that we've brought into our practice has been stretched beyond what we know during this time. And to me, I think this has really highlighted the need for us to realize that when we're the caregivers, when we're caring for other people, when we're the healers and the physicians and the nurses and the technicians and all the other staff, that it is so, so important that we can acknowledge what's tough about it and what's stressful about it, and when we need help with it, and how we can care for ourselves amidst all of that. It helps us do our jobs better, right? But we're human, we're people. We need to be able to realize that there are circumstances that we might be in, situations that we might have to deal with when we can't resolve it in the way that we want, and how stressful that is when we can look into the future and trust that, we trust medicine enough to know that we will see the other side of this, but we don't know what it's going to look like on the other side. And we don't know when we're going to get there, and we don't know what we're going to feel like and look like on the other side. And can we be allowed to care for ourselves during this and afterwards? And can we give ourselves the grace to understand that this is hard, this is tough, and we don't have all the answers? And as much as our patients are struggling and that we want to 120% be there for them at that moment, that a lot of us and our colleagues are struggling too, and in that we need support in that. But it's so interesting that the way you describe it, the other thing that came up as you were talking that I thought was so interesting, and this gets to what Dr. McKay was mentioning about new traditions, is the thing that, my mom brought this up. My mom lives nearby, and as fortune would have it, it turned out that my nephew was staying with her when the shutdown locally happened. He's in college. He was doing an internship locally, and his college went completely online. And so he just decided to continue staying with her. So she, as opposed to living alone, has had a roommate for the last.
Oh, that's nice. That's a good connection for them.
It's been phenomenal, a huge blessing. But they're also very cautious. And the one thing that she's brought up that she really misses is she misses physical touch, because she has been so used to hugging her grandkids, hugging her family, just being able to touch people. And we've all been very cautious because she's older and higher risk about limiting that even when we see her. And it made me think of the importance of when you go see a loved one in the hospital who maybe is struggling with an illness that has them dealing with end of life, or that they're acute, or maybe they're in the ICU and you can't talk to them. How important it is just to be able to touch them, just to be able to feel them, just to be able to whisper in their ear like the patient did with her family member. And how we have to figure out other ways to dial into those sorts of experiences that are so important, and be able to find other ways to do those things. For reasons that we never want a person in a nursing home to fall. Like, that's never an outcome that,
absolutely.
all the conflict. But wow, what an opportunity allowed for this family to connect with this family member. And so, being able to find opportunities to have those types of connections and even identify what's missing. The fact that my mom was able to identify that she misses physical touch, and that we've been able to figure out ways to say, well, the kids have been isolated for like 2 weeks because they're learning at home. We haven't been around anyone. Let's everybody throw their masks on. They're going to turn their back to you and we're going to get some hugs in there. Like, figuring out how can you make those things happen. I mean, I think it's all about being creative and thinking out of the box, but identifying those things that, again, get back to what's important to you. What do you value? How do you get some of those things back in place in really creative ways?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's huge. That is huge. Good, huge perspective on an interesting situation that we're currently in. One of a kind. One of a kind. Absolutely. Awesome. And so, we're going to switch topics.
Yeah.
Because we got deep, like, real fast.
We did.
And then you basically, and then we also talked about fear, because I kind of expressed, the fears that we have. You basically were sharing about the fear that your mom had, right? Yeah. And so that was huge. So thank you for doing that. I know that you are an expert in your coaching. You help people to identify who they are. Yeah. Do you want to express that more, explain that more?
Yeah. So really what I like to do, and I do this when I start, especially at the beginning of a coaching engagement, is just having a person tell me, if I was to call you on the phone and we hadn't spoken in 3 years, and you were living your best life, you were living your dream life, and I called you and said, "Hey, Charmaine, it's been so long. What's been going on?" How would you answer? How would you tell me, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you called. You're not going to believe what's been going on"? What does that life look like? Like, that's what I try to get people to imagine. And then we start with, okay, so where are you right now? And then how do we get to that point? And that's really what my coaching is about. It's understanding that we all have a purpose. We all have a reason that we're here. And a lot of us haven't given ourselves the opportunity and the grace to actually slow down and say, well, what is that even? And a lot of that starts with understanding your values, knowing your identity, understanding those things that have limited you, and really plugging into, okay, I can figure out what my strengths are. I can figure out what my superpowers on, and superpowers are, and I can plug into that, and I can get to that place that I envision myself to be. And so that's how I partner with women. I really I just feel called to work with working moms, because I get it. Yeah, I've been there. I've gone through career transitions. I'm a working mom. I put as the number one thing on the front burner of my life every day, it's my family and my kids, and kind of helping them in their life. But on the burner right next to them is, why am I here on this earth otherwise? Like, what is my purpose, and what do I have to offer? And I'm paying attention to both of those. And then, there's a couple of other burners of, and I'm still working as a psychiatrist, and I'm a writer, and it's, how do you figure how all that stuff fits together? I get that. I get that we have lots of roles, and we have specific roles in our families, in our lives, and we can't always we don't always have an opportunity or give ourselves the space to see through all of that, to say, but at the end of the day, what am I here to do? And how do I make that happen? And so when I partner with the women that I coach with, it's to say, hey, you're bringing the expertise of knowing who you're supposed to be. I'm just here to help you figure out how to get there. Maybe if we look at your life as the road that you're on, I'm here as the guardrails to every time, you discover something to scoot you back. Well, let's look at this a little bit more. Well, let's pay attention to that. What does that mean? So that's how I like to see my coaching.
Nice. And then for those who are listening and are not having the advantage of seeing the video currently, Dr. Asamoah can be reached for her coaching, can be reached at Tracy, TracyAsamoah, coaching.com. So check her out, because clearly she's got a touch that's going to help you to dig deep and figure out who you are, so you can move forward leaps and bounds. And bounds. Awesome. And then let's see, how else can you reach Dr. Asamoah? You can reach her on Instagram at Tracy Asamoah. So TracyAsamoahMD. You can reach her there like that. And you can also reach her at the same tag on LinkedIn. Awesome. All right. So, oh my, I'm looking at the timer and we are at 30 minutes. Awesome sauce. So this has been such a great conversation. Normally we get into like specific fears, like literally, oh, we have a question. Your question is, do you do coaching for teenage girls?
I don't. And that's interesting. I have specifically separated my practice, and I will say, no, I don't do coaching for teenage girls as part of my coaching practice. I do a lot of coaching with my patients. I mean, I think I bring my coaching into the work that I do with patients, but it's not part of my coaching practice. I have specifically carved out my coaching practice for professional moms. Like, those are the folks I'm helping in this way.
Awesome. And then you have a comment from LinkedIn, basically stating that this is great info. So thank you for tuning in. I'm sorry, I don't know exactly who it is, because it's coming up as LinkedIn user. But yes. Thank you for tuning in. So awesome. What a good conversation.
I'm so happy. Thank you so much for having me. This has been awesome.
Yes, it's been a lot of fun for me too. So we are at that point in the show where we have to do our tradition, and that is fill in the blanks. Dr. Tracy Asamoah, are you ready?
I'm here for it.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, let's do this. All right, so the first one is, to me, fearless freedom means
knowing myself well enough to go for what I was put on this earth to do.
Love it. Love that. The next one is, if I am fearless, I will
take the next step.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's right on point. And then my battle cry is,
I am here and I am ready.
awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So thank you,
Yeah.
Fearless Freedom Tribe. Thank you, Dr. Asamoah. And you know where to find her. I gave you the info, basically at Tracy Asamoah MD on IG as well as LinkedIn. And you can check out her coaching at tracyasamoahcoaching.com. Hit her up. Get info from her, pick her brain, hire her, do it because you want to be better than you were yesterday. That's what it's all about. All right. So this is Dr. G signing out. And thanks again for listening and watching. Have an amazing, amazing day.